Radio. Following program are not necessarily those of KSCO staff, management, or advertisers. If something is said with which you disagree, please let us know by writing to us at comments@ksco.com.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you, KSCO Live. Happy summertime. When the living is easy, the fish are jumping and the cotton is high. And what a great time to be healthy and be able to go out and enjoy this incredible weather that we have and this incredible state and country that we are in. So, it's really something to strive for. I was out working in the yard this morning, doing some repairs and planting some stuff, fixing a leak in the water pipe. And, I'm just really thankful that I have the health that I do have. Could I improve on it? Absolutely. At 69 years old, I get around pretty well, but I could always improve on things. And I think that's the case for all of us. So, I do want to dedicate this show to a patient of mine named Andy. He passed away a couple of days ago, unfortunately, and was a very fast growing tumor. And, he came to me a few years ago as a patient, lived out of town, so we didn't see a lot of him. And he was working in a gardening type of position, retired, enjoying his life, but he worked at a golf course and he was cleaning the golf carts and fertilizing the fields and all this kind of stuff. And his boss, who did it before him, had developed Parkinson's disease. And unfortunately for Andy, it wasn't quite so lucky. He developed a tumor in which was a very fast growing. And I look at it and go, wow, here we go. We work so hard all our life doing things that we love or maybe don't love. And so, it's something that we want to just be sure that we are as healthy as we can be and as healthy as we can get. So, I just take a look at the toxicity in our body and the toxicity in our lives and in our environment and go, well, a lot of us have to really decide to do something before we get sick. It's always a good idea to do something about your health sooner than later. And now there's a lot of options out there, and there's a lot of stuff that you can find almost everywhere on the planet. And you get online and there's a myriad of things. And the problem with that is, a lot of them might be a partial solution and they might give you some false hope. But at the end of the day, they don't really handle the problem. So just like we have you might have a nice car that you enjoy or something like that. This is taking an example of a Porsche, $100,000 car or something like that. You wouldn't take that to a shady mechanic or try to work on it yourself, I would hope, because, there's certain knowledge about how to work those things and how to keep them going. And so the same thing with our bodies. I mean, our bodies are so much more complicated than a car, but we take it for granted because they're just, you wake up and you just put your feet on the floor and just start walking, and then we are in a rush, we're under stress, we got to go to work, all these different things come up. And a lot of people just keep going till they break down. And we might think we're doing the right things. I mean, a lot of people that work out really hard all the time, sometimes it's, there's an endocrine high for it, there's a dopamine high that you get off of it and things like that. But oftentimes people are overworking their body and it shortens their life because the cells, these things called telomeres, which are on the end of the cells that get shorter every time a cell divides, they only have so much that they can do before they break down, and that you no longer can divide them anymore. So it's really important that, we take a look at us as individuals. You might have a twin brother or sister or siblings that are healthier or less healthy than you, and you may have lived in the same house, grown up, on the same foods, same environment, and one is incredibly healthy and the other has got every disease in the book. So what is this? What makes the difference between the health of one person or another? Well, part of it is this thing called genetics, but genetics only plays a small role in the turning on of bad genes. The genes lie dormant unless acted on by an outside force. It's kind of like inertia. An object will stay at rest or stay in motion until acted on by an outside force. And with the genes in your cells, of which you have 75 trillion of them, the genes are in all of them except for the red blood cells. Those genes don't get turned on unless acted on by an outside force. And usually, in a perfect world, those outside forces are the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and hormones that get in and out of the cell or operate on a cell that keep you healthy. What goes wrong and what turns on and that's the way it's supposed to be. Our bodies are meant to live and to survive and live to be 130, 40 years old. If you take a look at the Huns of people, or even some of the other tribes that are not affected by Western civilization, which is pretty much peppered with toxicity that might come in the guise of convenience, but in the long haul, it makes our bodies weak, immune system weak, and ends up toxifying different parts of our bodies. So, what do you do to protect yourself for this? Well, number one, you need a baseline understanding of where your health is. And that baseline understanding, there's different ways to get that, but you're much better off doing it prior to getting sick, because now I have a question on raise a hand. Don't raise your hand if you're driving, but how many of you know what your blood type is? Is it A, B, or O? Very few people know that. And, if you called your doctor, they may not know it. So there's a test that you can get online for like $10 and you order it and it will send it to you. Prick your finger and you know what your blood type is. Why is this significant? Well, if you're ever out and about and you get in some kind of, God forbid, an accident or injury and you need a blood transfusion, if they don't know your blood type and it's seconds away, the only blood they can give you is type O because it's the universal donor, type O negative. Any other blood type can cause problems for you. So why don't we know this? Why aren't we told this? Why isn't it on the back of our driver's license? Well, it should be. So there's a tip for you. Get online and find a place to order one of these $10 kits. Now, once we know your blood type, we can do a heavy metal test on you in our office without drawing blood. It's a machine we put on your hand in 4 different spots, and it called photocytometry. And that sends a photon into your skin under your hand, and it reads the measurements of the cells, the minerals that are supposed to be in there. Sometimes they're high, low, unbalanced. And then the vitamins, are they getting into the cell? A lot of times people are taking gobs of vitamins, but they're not being absorbed into the cells of the body. Well, it's a simple way to test this because we can look and see what is in the cell. So often people are taking multiple vitamins or various things, and we take this test and we find out one guy had no vitamin D at all getting into his cells. Now, vitamin D is incredibly important because it's a hormone, acts as a hormone, and it's used for your immune system. It's one of the major antiviral hormones out there, and it's very important they have that. But you are kind of blindly putting stuff down your gullet thinking that it's doing you good. But then do you want to take a risk of finding out later that no, I wasn't absorbing these things, or they weren't able to be absorbed into my through my intestinal wall because my intestines are too inflamed. They're not working well. So, and then it also tests heavy metals. There's a test of probably 15 different heavy metals that test from aluminum, arsenic, bismuth, barium, uh, cadmium, mercury, lead, tin, gadolinium. All these things are the heavy metals are very toxic and they come down 4 generations through mom's umbilical blood, especially the mercury. It's very toxic. Aluminum is very toxic. We're getting more aluminum falling out of the sky right now than ever because they use it in jet fuel to make the jets run the better mileage. So all those particulates are floating down into our atmosphere, into the water we drink, into the crops that grow that we eat, and there's no stopping it. So we want to get a level of where we are at, especially if in 35 years of practice, literally, I can count on one hand the number of people that came in and said, "Hey, I'm here because I'm really healthy and I want to get healthier." Out of over 20,000 patients, 5 people have said that. So less than 5, actually. So, that's kind of scary. So people usually come in to see a chiropractor as a last resort. They've tried everything else. They've been on medications, they've maybe had surgeries, they've had their nerves burned, they've taken chemical things to try to handle stuff. And then on a whim, they driving down the road and they go, well, I have nothing else to lose. I might as well go in and see what that chiropractor can do for me. And literally, that is so often that we are the final choice. That's what happened to me. I would never go to a chiropractor because we grew up in the Berkeley Bay Area. Most of our neighbors were medical doctors. We played with the kids. When I injured my back at 12 falling out of a tree on the Cal Berkeley campus, nobody took me seriously. They gave me, different types of painkillers and tell me to go to bed. And, as the little kids were seen and not heard back then. And if you were heard too much, my mother pulled out the wooden spoon and that shut me up pretty quickly. So, as it were for me, I was gone to medical doctors many times as a kid with to no avail. My mother had developed after my brother died at 16. I was 9. He ended up taking his own life, unfortunately. Um, that was a terrible thing, but it killed my mother. It caused her to develop ovarian cancer within a couple years. And then by the time I was 17, she passed. And it was there was so much of just the loss of the child that caused that for her. And I could not imagine that, you know. I've had several very close family members and friends pass away, um, but it wasn't one of my own bairn, Even as a father, it would be tough, but as a mother, it's, I'm sure, a lot tougher. I could not imagine it. But the thing is that when I recall looking at the eyes of these medical doctors when we would go to the oncologist or the medical doctor with my mom, and we had dinner at their house once a month. And the oncologist, name will stay unnamed, was always the wise man in the house and, the doctors. And then when we went to talk to him and early on with my mother, and I could see in this doctor's eyes that he was not looking anywhere in the room. He was looking far away. And the the sound that was going in words into his head were not being penetrated into his head. They were lost in this daze. And I had a really weird feeling at that. I was like maybe 12 years old, 13 years old. And I had such a strange feeling that he didn't really know how to help my mom. And I remember going, what? Wait, you go to a doctor and you get fixed. And unfortunately, it was too late for my mom. And because ovarian cancer is one of the cancers that there's no symptoms until there are major symptoms, it was too late for her. And this was in the early 70s. So there wasn't as much different stuff available as there is now. But, and then, so that the emotional environment has a lot to do with health. That's why we give out bottles of vitamin G, 100% gratitude. I found one here on the table here at the station, and it talks about 100% gratitude, vitamin G. It says, don't keep out of reach of children. And serving zero sugar, zero fat, zero protein, zero calories, 100% gratitude. And directions, hold bottle in hand first thing in the morning and think of 10 things you're grateful for, and it goes on. But without gratitude and without appreciation of what's around us, um, we're doomed. And there is a lot of ill rest going on around the world right now. But the way to heal the world and to heal ourselves is to express gratitude where you can find it. That's one thing, because it causes endorphins to be released in our brain, like serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. It's proven to do this. So if you go through the day and never find anything to be grateful for, you're going to become sick eventually. You're going to be unhappy no matter what, and you're going to probably be unpleasant to be around. So there has to be something. We live in Santa Cruz. How can you not be gratuitous or show gratuity about that, or gratitude, whatever the correct form of speech is? So anyway, so that mental disposition is so important on being healthy. That's why get out in this beautiful first day of summer, or was it yesterday? Get out and enjoy the beautiful weather. Go to the beach, walk along West Cliff or East Cliff. If you live near the mountains, be out in the mountains, but get outside and notice something. This is a process that you can do to help you when you're not feeling well. Go notice something, like notice a plant, acknowledge it, and then be grateful for it. And then notice the sky, it's blue. Notice a rock in the garden. Then notice the moon. And just start looking at things and realize that we're not in our head. We are on this planet, and this planet is, a land of opportunity. And that opportunity is to live life as best as we can. Sure, there's going to be a lot of things that happen to us, to the ones we love, to the world around us. But you know what? We have our choice to make on how we can recover, and it might take some time. But it is important to be grateful for what you had or have. And so it was really interesting because throughout the years, we've heard, and me being in the medical field, starting in school and all that over 40 years, and having, of course, broken my back and then carried into a chiropractor at 20. So that's 59 years ago, 49 years ago, 49 years ago, that I was carried into a chiropractor almost 50 years ago. And I walked out, and blew me away because I'd been in pain for a good almost half my life. And I was able to change that by finding something natural that helped me. So a lot of times, and I had tried everything. I was lying flat on my back. I couldn't move. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I had a bedpan. I had every drug in the world to try to dull the pain, and nothing worked. Then two friends of mine picked me up and put me in the back of my own pickup on a couch they got out of my living room and drove me to a local chiropractor in town named Dr. Anthony York. Carried me in there and scared the hell out of me. And then his beautiful wife, Patty, was there. And she was from the Midwest, and she looked like Snow White, perfectly white skin, had her tucked her teeth, almost had a book on her head so she didn't wiggle when she walked. She basically comforted me enough to get my first adjustment, in which I walked out. So I'd had many thoughts about not wanting to be a paraplegic and different alternatives that I was seriously looking at before this happened. So these two guys saved my life, and Dr. York saved my life. So, but here we are in this time, and we have a choice to make. Um, two paths diverged in the woods, and I chose the one less traveled by, and it made all the difference. We are the sickest country in the industrialized world. And, we take more drugs than anybody in the world. Thank God Bobby Kennedy's in there. He's raising hell. And drug companies don't like them. Of course they wouldn't. He's cutting into their gravy train. The FDA and CDC and all these guys that have to do with patenting drugs that we get on the market are on the take. And of course, if you have stock in a company and they want you to put a drug out, you're going to approve it. So your stock goes up. It's really crazy. It's really weird, the ethics of the world. And we're running into that pretty heavily right now. So what you can do is you can take a look at your life and decide what you need to do to change it because nobody's going to change it but you. The government won't change it for you. Your spouse won't change it for you. Your kids won't change it for you. The way your kids change it for you is deciding you can't drive anymore and take your driver's license away. And unfortunately, I see that a lot with some of the seniors that come in because of something called peripheral neuropathy. They can no longer tell where their feet are on the gas pedal. Maybe they have had an accident and maybe not. But once they do, either the medical doctor takes it away or your kids say, call the DMV and say, please, let's take my dad's or mom's driver's license away. Now, peripheral neuropathy is something that is reversible, believe it or not. And we have a ways to do that. We've helped a lot of people. And by the way, this Wednesday and Thursday, we are doing a workshop at my office on peripheral neuropathy, McCollum Family Chiropractic in Capitola. I'll say the number a few times, 831-459-9990. I know that both classes are really, really full. But if you want to try to get into one or have an alternative, we will be doing an overflow class. You can sign up for that. But the basic handling for peripheral neuropathy are drugs to handle the symptoms, not correct the problem. And we know that the peripheral nerves can grow again if you treat them right. If you take a plant and you pull it out of the ground and wash all the dirt off the roots, and you put that plant in a toxic formula, those roots are going to die. That's what happens to the nerves in your feet. Your feet are no longer nourishing the nerves. So it's your feet and your calves. It's far away from the heart. It's downstream, gravity-wise. You get toxicity down there. You get the arteries plugged or breaking down from diabetes, chemotherapy, radiation treatment, things like glyphosate and various other things in the environment, lead, mercury, aluminum, any of those things. And the nerves are going to die, just like you take that plant and put it in a toxic solution. But what would happen if you took that out and put it in a healthy solution? Do you think that plant would die? If you caught it in time? Of course not. Just like a house plant. Come home from vacation and the kid next door didn't water it like he said he would, and it's all dried up. If you catch it in time and water it and maybe give it a little bit of gentle fertilizer, that plant's going to come back. And that's what happens with the nerves in your feet and your hands. And the nerves that go to your organs, by the way, because they can have neuropathy too. The nerves going to your bladder, maybe you have frequent urination, trouble with your colon, various things like that. So don't give up on your body. It hasn't given up on you yet. It's trying to do everything it can to get you to enjoy life. So the things that you want to do is don't go for every whimsical thing you find on the internet. Um, Very often, when people come in with complaining of peripheral neuropathy, they'll bring a bag of gadgets in, this gadget and that gadget, and these supplements and that supplement. And maybe all of them have a bit of truth to them, or maybe some of them could help with the peripheral neuropathy to some degree. But it's like it's not going to correct the problem or lead to a more favorable solution unless you do a plethora of stuff. You want to work on this from every angle possible or suffer the consequences. So the way we work with it is not only do we work on regrowing the nerves, but we also work on regrowing the things that are surrounding the nerves so that they can become healthier. Looks like my Facebook feed just died, so I'm going to do it. I'll just start it up again. But it's so important that you realize that there's a lot you can do to become healthy. So last thing you want to do is nothing. And then more importantly, the thing that you do want to do is find things that are proven to actually help your body and do more of it. So we have ways to rebuild the nerves. We have ways to rebuild the sheath called the myelin sheath that feeds the nerves. We have ways to pull out the toxins that killed the nerve in the first place. We can help you reverse the devastating effects of toxicity, of diabetes, of chemotherapy, of radiation treatment, as long as we catch it soon enough. And we can make strides to improve that. Now, depending on how far gone it is, depends on how much improvement we can get. But, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic, and I'm just talking about ways to become healthy here. And I got off on the peripheral neuropathy thing for a minute, but the main understanding is life is to be lived. We have this beautiful day. Summer's here and perfect weather today. You should be out enjoying yourself. Um, we're going to go hit some golf balls after this and maybe take a ride to Capitola on our bikes, you know. But the older I get, the more lucky I am with my health. Now, luck comes from preparation and hard work. That's the definition of luck. Preparation and hard work are luck. So you don't just get a lucky health unless you've, really worked at it and you've prepared right. So what does that mean? Now there are those George Burns that are going to be able to drink every night and every day and every morning and smoke cigars till they're 105. Nothing's going to happen. They just won't wake up one day. But we know that that's not the norm. It may have been more like that in a less toxic world. But when I grew up, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the average kid, there was maybe 6% of kids at most had um, some kind of autoimmune disease or were obese. Now it's 30% of the children have some kind of an autoimmunity disease going on, at least one. I think the same amount are obese, and probably up to 60% are overweight. So, and that's just the kids. Now, it's not that we haven't got a more advanced society and we should have better foods, better ingredients, a cleaner environment, better water filters, better HEPA filters to clean our air. All of that and better medications to make sure that we're not turning off the disease instead of keeping it going, to make sure that we're not solving the problem. I mean, we should be solving the problem. But we're not. We've got $4.7 trillion spent on medicine last year, 4.3 trillion the year before. Admittedly, the numbers say that 70% of that 4.3 trillion was spent on covering up symptoms or managing symptoms. So, this is like driving down the road and there's a car accident and it's slower traffic. And you finally get up and you look over at the people at the accident, and you may have a thought or maybe not. You just kind of might look and go, and keep driving. Or you might go, oh, those poor people, or gee, I'm glad it wasn't me, or what a dummy, whatever those thoughts might be. But we don't consider it as us until it's us. So, you want to look at your future. So many of us were taught to have a financial legacy, put away our future funds so that we could live where we wanted to when we're done working. But nobody taught us about a health legacy. And this is really not okay. I mean, we should have been taught about that in school. I think we had a class in sixth grade about nutrition, but nobody really taught us that. And of course they didn't, because they don't want us to know about health because they want to make money off us being sick. We're the 47th in the world for health. So, if it's to be, it's up to me, that kind of thing. If you want to get healthy, it's up to you. Now, I have a lot of ways to help you. You could simply get online and buy my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. Great information in there. Also, I have one, New Hope for Sciatica. Turn Back Your Biological Clock is also called New Hope for Peripheral Neuropathy. Um, you could get on one of my two websites. I have McCollumWellness.com. That's all the nutritional side. This is the detoxification, the heavy metals, that stuff. McCollum Family Chiropractic is the peripheral neuropathy, joint injury, ambulation stuff that's stopping your body from functioning physically. And I have invested in a tremendous amount of brand new top of the line equipment that is so new that the insurance companies don't know about it. Most doctors don't have it. I had the first one in Northern California as far as the soft wave therapy machine, which we have a $49 special for that. You can come in and we can try to see if it works on your peripheral neuropathy, on your plantar fasciitis, on your tennis elbow, on your shoulders from surfing or from carpentry, your low back, your upper back, all these different things, hips, knees that we can work on with this stem cell machine, the soft wave stem cell machine that actually we've had tremendous results with it. Oftentimes with one um, treatment, people are feeling better. I'd say that's the majority of the time. In fact, we've actually graphed it. 80% of the times people feel results after the first treatment. Now you need, one treatment it'd be great if we had the magic wand, but if it's moving the needle in the right direction, this is awesome. And the way the stem cells work, the initial stem cell in your body was when an egg and a sperm came together. That was the original stem cell. That one cell split and split and split and split and split. In 8 days, there were 8 cells. Then by day 16, the nervous system, the central spinal canal was being developed, the brain was being differentiated, then little tiny nerves coming off of the central nervous system was coming out, 31 nerves becoming the body. And today, as you sit there, you're 75 trillion cells strong or weak. And each of those nerves goes to a different portion of your body. They can go to your liver, your kidney, your chest, your lungs, your reproductive organs, your heart, down into your arms, down to your feet. And anytime you have a damage with one of those nerves, just like a dimmed light or the nerve has the electrical cord has a short in it, you're going to have a problem. This is what happens with peripheral neuropathy. The nerves are no longer conducting electricity correctly. So, you can either mask the symptoms of the weird off firing nerves. So, what is pain? It's a nerve that's firing incorrectly, right? Especially if there's no needle in your foot, but it's painful. What's the itching? Nothing is causing the itching. The nerve's going crazy. What is the tingling? What's the numbness? I can't have a bedspread on my feet because it keeps me awake at night and it's irritating. How about I can't feel hot or cold and I stepped on a coal at a barbecue and burned my foot? That's not normal. These are signs that the nerves are short-circuited. And that happens from the outside the spine to the foot, hand, or organ. And these can be tested. We can test to find out how far these have been turned down. And a lot of times there's 2 steps. One is just imagine a boat out in the middle of the ocean that's sinking. There's no land anywhere, no lifeboats anywhere. So you have 2 choices. Try to plug the hole or bail the boat out. But if you don't know where the hole is, and if there's too many to plug, you better bail the boat out first and then plug the hole. And if you have enough of the crew, bail the boat and look for the hole at the same time. So when we work with people with different type of health issues, whether it's toxicity, peripheral neuropathy, joint problems, pain, sciatica, headaches, digestive problems, irritable bowel syndrome, whatever that is, it's all a symptom telling us that something's not working right in your body's ability to heal itself. So we want to bail the boat out. Let's try to calm down the symptoms and make sure that the boat doesn't sink or the body doesn't, just succumb. But at the same time, we need to try to figure out what was causing this in the first place. So that's, I call plugging the hole. So that's what true health is. It's number one, there's three parts of health: the physical part, the chemical, and the mental emotional. Now, I already kind of went over the mental emotional part, which is the vitamin G, 100% gratitude. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that you can do and a little beyond what I do in my office, but there's things that I've done that have been very successful, and I'm more than willing to share that. But what we specialize in is finding the physical and chemical malfunctions that are causing you to be sick. So chiropractically, it's nerves that have pressure on them and are not communicating correctly. They might be firing too much or too little. And then there's the chemistry that might be dissolving the nerves, actually dissolving the nerves, or breaking them down, or putting scar tissue around the nerve, or damaging the organs, or plugging the blood vessels. Diabetes is one of the main causes of peripheral neuropathy. So you take metformin or insulin that makes your blood thicker. Insulin is like viscosity in orange juice. So it's like more pulp in the orange juice, the more insulin you're putting in. It's not fixing the problem. It's not plugging the hole. It's putting more stuff in the bloodstream. It's not, it could save your life temporarily, but it is not the solution for long term, because that extra insulin in your blood has a term: hyperinsulinemia. It just says too much insulin in the blood, hyperinsulinemia. There's a couple other names for that. One is diabetes type 3. Another is Alzheimer's. Just look it up. So if you are, 60% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic, something that can be handled with exercise and diet alone, according to the National Institute, who's back in 1996. They put out an article on that. Then you never heard about it again. They just kept giving people these different drugs. Don't stop taking any medications because of what you're listening to here, but look into this. There are ways to get your body healthy without doing that. You can get my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, and or New Hope for Sciatica on Amazon. Both of them go into it. Has to do with inflammation at the cellular level. Early, I started talking about what goes on inside the cells that make the genes turn on or not turn on. What makes them red? What causes a bad gene to turn on? Well, it's toxicity or an inflammation in the cell. So the way we get healthy is to start to turn down that inflammation. And this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. This is McCollum Wellness Radio. By the way, there is many places that you can listen to me. One is my podcast, wherever podcasts are found, McCollum Wellness Radio. I have probably well over 200 now. If you're ever driving and you just want to, listen to anything regarding health, hopefully I can give you something to help you a little bit. I have over 200 videos on YouTube. Dr. Duncan McCollum, including every one of these shows, is video recorded and up on YouTube if you want to see it and hear it again, because the more we hear something, the better off we get. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I don't even know everything because I don't know how to do all this. My staff does it for me because they want to help me get the word out so we can try to make a difference in people's lives. So started talking about this incredible first day of summer, or second day. I guess the solstice was at 7 o'clock, either in the morning or the evening last night. I can't remember, or didn't know. I thought it was always the 21st, my friend Gregory's birthday. Gregory and I have known each other since I was 6 months old and he was born. And his family has been friends of ours since we were kids. And there's just a couple of us left in this generation now. And the old guard has passed. So at any rate, looking at ways to get healthy right now, I would say the simplest and least expensive way for you to find out where your health is know your blood type. You can get a thing online for $10 and you prick your finger, put it on 4 spots, and one will become apparently different from the others. And that's going to say I'm a type O, A, B, or B. You should have that on the back of your driver's license. Again, because if you're in an accident, knocked unconscious, and there's emergency crew there and they don't know your blood type, the only thing they can give you is type O. So you have to have the universal donor blood. However, if they know you're A positive or A negative, they can give you that particular blood and save your life without having a scarcity of blood because the only one everybody needs is type O negative. So just a hint, go get it. It's online. You can get it anywhere. Just put in blood test type test. And then I would say get an oligo scan and at our office or anybody else in town that has them. Oligo scan, OLIGO scan. And this is a photocytometry machine that takes a image of your hand in 4 places and it assays all of the minerals, all of the vitamins, and all of the heavy metals, sends it up to the cloud where there's millions of tests to compare it to, and then gives you an average of where you're at with all these things. You might have very heavy mercury and lead. That combination is really, really dangerous on the brain. You might have high aluminum. And the aluminum, a lot of people have been cooking on aluminum pans, drinking out of aluminum cans, using aluminum under their arms. Um, we're absorbing it from the sky every day now. We can't get away from it. And you can take a look at that because these are going to be um, relevant for turning on those bad genes in your cells. And the more you can eliminate them, the better chance you have to having a healthy life. Just think of this stuff like, barnacles on the hull of a boat. You got this big ship and you're racing through life and you've acquired so many barnacles that it's slowing you down in the water. And then you go through a kelp bed and all the kelp is stuck to the barnacles. And you still got all the sheets to the wind and you're trying to sail against the wind or with the wind or tacking this way or that. And you don't go anywhere and everybody's working and the rigging is being stressed. Well, why? Because of these barnacles affecting the ability of that boat to work right. Those barnacles can be heavy metals, molds, hidden infections, chemicals in your body that accumulate in the brain, in the liver, in other organs and tissues and muscles in your body, and they're going to kill you. But you can do something about it. Is just don't wait till it's too late. When should you do it? Before symptoms show up is the best thing. Now, I never did this. I never walked into a chiropractor's office and said, "Hey, I'm healthy. How do I stay healthy?" Now, I guess we've been convinced by doing our yearly checkup at the medical doctor, we are doing health checks. But if those were working, why are we rated 50th in the world for health, the most unhealthy country in the industrialized world? Consuming 50% of all the drugs made in the world, and we're only 4% of the population. You go in for your health check, and they find out that your cholesterol is 201. Well, 40 years ago, when I graduated chiropractic college, 249 was considered normal, 250s was considered high. So they said, oh, you got to do something about this. Don't change your diet. Don't exercise more. Don't even look at what you're eating. Just continue eating and take these drugs called statin drugs to lower your cholesterol, but don't change anything else. Or, you might look at your diet. See ya. Then by the time I graduated chiropractic school, or a few years later, when I started, it was 249. They said, oh, 224 is good. If you're at 225, boy, you're risking your life. Let's get you on these statin drugs, and don't, well, you look at that, but let's get you on these drugs. And then, they don't even look at triglycerides and see if they're low, which oftentimes are, which, there's a bifecta there. Now it's 199. Well, guess what? Heart disease hasn't gone down, but Alzheimer's has gone up dramatically, dementia dramatically. Why? Because we're drying up our brain because we don't have enough cholesterol, which the brain is made of, And it is drying up our joints, our brain, and rheumatoid arthritis is um, everywhere. Osteoarthritis, which is joint motion arthritis, all kinds of different inflammations occur because we don't have enough oils in our body to lubricate the joints. So I'm not saying if you're on a statin to not take it, but we know that statins cause peripheral neuropathy. What are their major side effects? Look it up, peripheral neuropathy. A lot of the NSAIDs you're taking, peripheral neuropathy is a side effect, as well as gut bleeding and causing your large intestine to bleed. So when you have large intestine bleeding or gaps in it called leaky gut syndrome, you're going to develop more and more inflammation in the body. We know that 15 out of 16 of the major causes of death from disease in this country are caused by chronic inflammation. So chronic inflammation leads to all of those 15 out of 16 diseases that are killing us, chronic inflammation. So why don't we address chronic inflammation? No, we addressing the symptoms related with the disease you have, and then the symptoms related to the medication you took to handle the symptoms of the disease, and then another drug for the symptoms that are being created by the symptoms of the drug that you took for the symptom that's supposed to hide the symptoms of the disease. And pretty soon our liver's so toxic, our brain's so toxic, our bodies don't know what to do. We don't know what to do because we're so polluted. And, we end up being sicker and sicker and sicker. Now, that's not the lot of everybody. My mother-in-law, Beth, is 103 and she'll be 104, I think, tomorrow or in the next 3 days, she'll be 104. And up until about 2 months ago, she was living on her own, healthy as can be, not on any medications. And she did have a fall, and now she's in a home and she's, 104. She's not doing as well as, we'd like to see her. But she told me an interesting story, and a lot of you may know her who came to my classes years ago because she was there. But she said when she was 74, and I have this, I should put it up on my website. She was 74 years old. She went to a medical doctor for her wellness checkup, and he came back and said, "Well, Beth, you have high blood pressure. We need to put you on high blood pressure medication." She goes, "I don't have high blood pressure." He goes, "Beth, you have high blood pressure and you need to take these drugs." So she, being a captain in the WAC, World War II Women's Army Corps, stomped home on the way, got a blood pressure cuff at the local drugstore, and she went home and she measured her blood pressure 4 times a day for 4 days, took those findings, marched into the doctor's office, gave him his prescription back and says, "Here, I don't have high blood pressure. You take these drugs." That's a true story. And so all the way up to 103, she wasn't on one drug. Now, she could have been put on many drugs had she just taken the advice of, you know, somebody. I'm not saying all medical doctors are drug pushers, but we do know that a lot of them have been being paid for how many prescriptions they can write on certain things. You can look that up online. You don't have to take my word for it. And then there's other doctors that won't do it, and they oftentimes lose their positions in companies. And it's really hard to believe that there are some conspiracy theories out there. I know some friend of mine goes, "Nope, everything's perfect. Nobody's dishonest, and all's up and up." Well, unfortunately, I wish that we were that good and honest of people. But if we were, um, at least in the medical realm, we'd be a lot healthier. Thank God for Bobby Kennedy. He's going to make a difference. Maybe not for us, but maybe for our grandchildren or my grandchildren. My children are in their late 20s and early 30s. And, they've never been vaccinated. My kids, zero zip, nada vaccine. They're in the 95th percentile health-wise. They've never get sick. And you know what? They're shining examples of healthy bodies that haven't had all of those vaccines. Like right now, we know that there's 78 different doses that they have by the time they graduate high school. 78. And many of them are in the first few years of life. I think I had 5, like I'm about the same age as Bobby Kennedy. We got a few. I ran away. I tried to run out of the office. I remember running away, screaming, and they had to catch me and jab that thing into my arm. I knew it wasn't good. Despite the pain, I didn't want it. My body is, and I've never had anything since that when I was 6 years old. I haven't had any. I don't want them. My body's incredibly healthy. I never get sick, other than breaking my back. I'm pretty healthy. But even having broken my back, I was able to be a chiropractor, adjusting chiropractor for 34 years. I don't adjust now. I have other doctors do that for me so I can help talk to people about their health more often. So hopefully this has been helpful to some degree or challenged you in some degree. Look at your health. It's up to you. Nobody else is going to do it. When you're at the end of the day, it's up to you. I remember my father at 60 or 91 years old on his deathbed. He was sitting there, and he at that point was knowing that this was his end. And even though we were trying to comfort him, he moved emotionally and spiritually away from me and my sister. And I kind of went, wow, this is the end, but he is here for himself now. So let's not learn that lesson on our deathbed. Let's learn that to be healthy is up to us right now. And, if you want some help, call my office, come to the Peripheral Neuropathy Workshop, get my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock on Amazon. Go on to McCollum Wellness. I have 2 different courses on there. One's a 7-week course on diet course that people lose a lot of weight on and learn how to eat healthy. There's a 30-day challenge that you can do on there. You can come in for our $49 special for the stem cell TRT treatment, the soft wave, if you haven't done that. Find out if we can help you become more able physically so that you can get healthier. Don't let your joint worry or pain stop you from getting what you need to get health-wise and do what you need to do health-wise. We also have the peripheral neuropathy workshop. I think they're full, but if you want to call and see if there's a space that opened up, 831-459-9990. That's this Wednesday at 12:30 and Thursday at 6 o'clock. Seating is very limited at this point, but we will have an overflow. If you think you're interested in finding out, we have amazing, amazing successes here. Just probably, because you're told that, well, you can't do anything about it, but we know we can. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum Wellness Radio, and McCollum Family Chiropractic in Capitola, 831-459-9990. We're going out with Lambert and Hendricks and Ross with Summertime.